I'm Bianca DeJesus from the Community and Learning team here at TED, and I'm glad to be joined today by Eliya, Raza, who is also on the Community and Learning team.
A couple of weeks ago, we had an information session, which we thought of as presenting the what of Countdown, what the initiative is. Today is about the how.
Our goal is that you walk away from this training knowing how to run your Countdown event with your vision and your tools. There are lots of different formats that you can use, whether you share Countdown talks alongside your own original talks or host a watch party where you can DJ up the Countdown talks and all you need is a host. It's 100% up to you.
So let's dive in.
Organizing a TEDx Countdown event is a journey. So where do you start? Well, I'm here to tell you everything that you need to know. And look, all of this is in the Before You Start guide, the TEDx Organizer guide, and in the host kit that we're going to send out in a few weeks. But this is our chance to walk through the 3 big things together. 1, planning your event. 2, making it happen. And 3, publishing and celebrating it. So let's start with step 1, planning your event. You can decide to host a watch party with Countdown talks, curate a combination of Countdown talks with talks you've developed from your local community, and your event can be fully remote or in person. Let's dig into your 2 big options, watch party or curating your own local talks. A watch party is a gathering, large or tiny, to watch the Countdown talks from TED and talk about them. And how do you get the content? How do you get the videos? We will provide them to you as downloadable files for you to grab from an Airtable that we'll send out a few weeks before your event. That means you can queue up talks and share them through your Zoom meeting. You can share them on a TV screen in a living room or at a big movie screen in a theater. And these talks will be translated and translatable, coming with SRTs in several languages. What does it mean to curate your own talks from your local community? Well, this is optional. If you choose, you can search for ideas, search for speakers in your community to deliver solutions-based climate change talks in addition to the Countdown talks from TED. In just a moment, my colleague David Biello is going to share everything that you need to know about this curation process. Here is what to listen for. Number 1, your talks should be credible. They should be fact-based and fact-checked. That's your responsibility as an organizer. And you need to make sure that there is no ulterior agenda in any of the talks you feature. Number 2, look for great ideas. Don't wait for speakers to come to you. And number 3, prepare your speakers. Develop those talks and make sure that your speakers are on board with your plan. That includes getting a speaker release in advance. There are so many great resources on the subject of curation, but a great place to start is the Prepare Your Speakers Guide in the TEDx Organizer Guide. To recap, decide whether to have a watch party with the Countdown talks or add in your own local talks from your speakers in your community, and decide to be fully remote or in person. Once you have made that decision, you are ready for step 2, making your event happen. Maybe you're having a watch party at home with friends. If you are, super simple. You can download a session of TED's Countdown program from the Airtable we provide you. Or even simpler, you can go to YouTube to access TED's public separate live stream of part of the Countdown event and just watch it. But if you're planning for something more involved, you need a team to help you. If it's a virtual event, you need a team member to keep track of and share all of the videos on your platform, another team member to be in the chat room, and yet another to host on camera. Sharing pre-recorded talks and sharing live delivery talks on a platform both work. You just need a solid setup. Check out our virtual gatherings guide on TED.com. And while we recommend Zoom for virtual events, there are lots of other options. Even YouTube is available to you, so long as you fill out the YouTube form from your approval email to authorize your event. If it's an in-person event, you need a curator, producer, a host, and team members to support your speakers and audience. As your event becomes more elaborate, you can scale your team. Read more in the Build Your Team section of the Organizer Guide. Whether you pre-record or not, have your speakers live on virtual or live in person, just make sure you film or record them, and in your local language. Just include subtitles, because we would love an English translation so everyone around the world can enjoy the talk. Finally, map out your day. However you gather around countdown talks, what will you do after? Consider an activity. Going outside and volunteering in your local community. TEDx Varese and their team had a blast last year planting trees in northern Italy. And think about discussing the talks together. We have a great way to do this with TED Circles. Look out for a presentation coming up from Alyssa Hampton on just that. Finally, you made it to step 3, publishing and celebrating your event. You have too much to be proud of, too much to share. So this is what you need to know about telling the story of your event's impact. First, prepare to send out the TEDx attendee survey. This is your key to understanding your attendees' feedback and the impact the event had on them. Next, take the videos of your live speakers, edit them, and upload all of the finished talks to the TED Media Uploader. You don't have to publish any talks that didn't turn out the way you planned. Just let us know. But everything else should go up to the channel. Don't forget, upload and tag your photos on Flickr under Creative Commons. And if you've done all this, you are ready to tell your event story. For much more, David Rosenberg, our communications director, has a fantastic presentation about social media coming up later today. Last, quantify and qualify your day. How did it go? What happened? How many social media impressions did you make? But also, how many trees did you plant? Or how many minds did you change? Even one, or especially one, is a story that we need to know, the world needs to know. In a moment of global challenge, you have risen to the occasion. You are here because you understand what's ahead of us, and you know that you play a role in helping make it better. We are so proud to stand alongside you in that, and we cannot wait to see what you do. Thank you, and we celebrate you.
Hello, everyone. I'm David Biello. I'm TED's science curator. What does that mean? That means I choose the scientists who are going to come on stage and give TED Talks, and then, of course, help them give great TED Talks. That may sound a little intimidating, but I am here to tell you that you can do that too, and you should, especially as part of this Countdown Summit initiative. It is very important that we have as many voices as possible joining together to fight what is a global problem. That's why it's called global warming, and helping us combat climate change all around the world. So how do you do that? How can I help you do that? Well, let me start by giving you some tips on what makes for a good climate science talk. First and foremost, you want claims that can be tested and verified. Now, that does not include climate change itself. That claim has been tested and verified ad infinitum. Another great test for how you might judge a climate talk or find one are these little publications called peer-reviewed science journals. You may have heard of some of them. They have compelling titles like Science, Nature, the Public Library of Science, Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. They all sound very august and remote, but let me tell you, you can too troll through these peer-reviewed journals and find local talks, local scientists who have been vetted by their peers and may have a new idea to present. You can also tell by a set of, let's say, red flags about the speaker themselves. The hallmark of a good scientist includes the ability to accept criticism. Remember that part about if you don't understand it, no one else will? Well, that is a criticism that is valid, and scientists should be capable of accepting that. But they also should kind of have a healthy self-doubt. Most scientists are not entirely 100% sure that their idea is absolute truth. That is the nature of science. In fact, the nature of science is to constantly look for holes in your own work. It's like you are your own worst enemy. If the scientist you're speaking to does not show that, then that's probably a pretty big red flag. Another possible red flag is that this is an idea that hasn't convinced other scientists. Now, let me be clear. There are a lot of kind of cutting edge scientific ideas that may come in for criticism, both from the person who has the idea and for their peers. That doesn't mean that the idea is not worth presenting. It just means that you need to be careful in how you sort of frame that idea. So words like may or could are your friend, are your best friend in a scientific TED Talk. Another way to check the results is to see if other experiments have reproduced the results. So the reason we have confidence in climate change is because every experiment we've ever run has shown that carbon dioxide traps heat. And therefore, if we increase the levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, it's gonna get hotter. Every experiment that has been done has backed up that theory. That's the hallmark of a good theory, one that is backed up by a lot of experiments. Another red flag is someone who is perhaps overconfident. A little confidence is good, right? We want you to be passionate about your idea and to present it clearly and forcefully. But if you think that you are the sole genius who is single-handedly going to solve climate change, that might be a little bit of a red flag because it's really going to take all of us. Finally, when it comes to curating a good climate science talk, don't be seduced by the speaker. You've probably heard this in other presentations today, but it's very easy to be swayed by the charisma of the speaker themselves rather than the power of the idea. But here's a simple way to think about it. You can help someone become a better speaker. You cannot give them a better idea. The idea has to come first. So don't be seduced by that charismatic speaker. Now, the kinds of climate talks that I think we're most interested in here at TED and as part of the Countdown Initiative are what we would call solutions talks, right? We no longer need talks that kind of lay out the basics of climate science for the most part. And of course, you'll be the best judge of your local community and whether they still need that kind of basic primer in climate science. What we really need are solutions. So to take a popular example, electric cars replacing internal combustion engine cars, that's a great climate talk because that is a solution that can help reduce emissions. And that's the kind of talk that we're looking for. When I say a solutions talk, it's getting back to that kind of TED slogan, ideas worth spreading. A solution is clearly an idea worth spreading. And we're particularly looking for, because this is TEDx and this is the power of TEDx, local solutions talks. What are the ideas that could kind of catalyze transformation in your community, in your country, in your state, in your city? Those are the ideas worth spreading in this context. And those are the ideas that we need you for. TED is taking a very global perspective, yes, but we have a limited number of slots on the main stage, as it were, and people need inspiration in their day-to-day lives, and they need to see how combating climate change can be done at the local level, where they live, in the language that they speak. Last but not least, let me give you a little taste of some of the good science talks we have curated for the main Countdown Summit. First and foremost, we're going to address something that doesn't get as much attention as it should. So we're going to explore a little molecule called methane. You may know it as natural gas. It is a fossil fuel, and it also happens to be a very powerful greenhouse gas. So on the one hand, it actually traps more heat than carbon dioxide itself. On the other hand, it doesn't last as long in the atmosphere. in about 20 years, a molecule of methane that's emitted today will be gone. And that means it's a powerful short-term solution to help stave off some of the worst of climate change while we get our kind of larger carbon dioxide emissions under control. So we'll have a couple talks on that because it is such a short-term impact. Secondly, this is a planet that, at least in English, we call Earth, but it should probably be called ocean. Why is that? It's because the ocean covers 70% of the surface of this planet. And the ocean is the single most important system for determining how much and how fast our climate is going to change. In fact, the ocean has been doing a lot of the heavy lifting of cleaning up our mess. So we've been burning all these fossil fuels and putting all these greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. A lot of that has been absorbed by the ocean, which is acidifying the ocean and also heating it up. And the ocean has had this kind of tempering effect on the climate change we've experienced so far. So we will be having a very important talk on how we can sort of enlist the ocean and think about the ocean as the front lines of our climate change fight. Those are just a few of the talks. We will also have talks addressing kind of the human spirit aspect of this. We will have talks addressing the political angle, everything you can imagine. But those are some of the science-based angles we hope to take. So I hope that has been helpful. I just want to re-emphasize that you can do this, and more importantly, you should, because we need every voice in this global fight against climate change. And remember, I'll be doing this right alongside you. We'll be doing it in the same way, with the same tools that I've given you some of here today. And together, I believe we can win this fight to combat climate change and make for a better world for all of us. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name's Alyssa, and I'm here to share how you can make your TEDx Countdown events more participatory. At TED and TEDx events, we love seeing attendees strike up conversations about the talks they just watched. Individually, it's easy for ideas to go in one ear and out the other, or only see one side. But together, we see ideas holistically, build relationships, and are more motivated to take action. At TED, we're invested in ideas, community, and action. So we worked with our volunteer community to co-create a simple way for small groups to discuss ideas face-to-face. They're called TED Circles. TED Circles is a global and growing community of volunteer-hosted small groups who watch and discuss a talk about a monthly theme. With hundreds of circles taking place each month and discussing the same monthly theme, circles can bring each other's perspectives into their group conversation, which creates a global conversation. As TEDx Countdown event organizers, you have an ideal opportunity to provide great TED Circles experiences for your guests. You've already gathered guests and watched the talks. Simply adding an hour to your program and doing some quick preparation will give your guests an experience to remember. Circles-related resources are in your host kit, and I'm going to bring them to life right now by highlighting the 3, 2, 1 of things to do before, during, and possibly after your event in order to host TED Circles. Before your event, there are 3 things to do. First, spread the word. In pre-event communications and during the event itself, let guests know that they are invited to go beyond one-way listening by joining small group conversations about a talk after main stage programming. Second, pick a discussion-worthy talk. When you're pre-watching talks the day before, look for the one that has you reflecting on your own beliefs and behaviors rather than simply agreeing. That's going to be the easiest and most beneficial for your guests to discuss. And third, determine the location and group size. If you're online, use Zoom breakout rooms for a set length of time, say 45 minutes, and know the online tool so you can familiarize your guests with the key features. If you're in person, look for spaces in your venue where you can set up circle-spaced seating for guests to have uninterrupted conversation. In either setting, determine the group size. 5 to 10 people is great. With enthusiastic guests, an engaging talk, and a plan to split your audience into small groups, you're ready for event day. During the event, there are 2 things to do. And remember, this is all outlined in your TEDx Countdown host kit. First, set up and conclude the TED Circles. Have your main stage hosts introduce the activity. Let guests know that they're about to enter breakout rooms to discuss a specific talk for a specific amount of time. Reinforce positive values and ask the groups to select a volunteer facilitator. When guests reconvene, have your main stage host invite a few facilitators to share their circle's takeaways so that way the full audience benefits from additional perspectives. And 2, help your volunteer facilitators succeed. When you say each group needs to pick a volunteer facilitator, outline what they're expected to do. They will help guests feel comfortable by doing a short round of fun, personal introductions to create a shared sense of connection. They will equally engage guests in conversation that stays focused on the talk's ideas. Ask open-ended questions such as, what are you now curious about? How do you connect with this idea? Or what does this idea make you want to do? And call on raised hands to create momentum while keeping track of who hasn't spoken, inviting them to contribute before allowing someone to speak again. And they need to end on time. Having topped and tailed the activity and supported volunteer hosts, you're done. Congrats! If you and your guests liked that, after the event, there's one thing to do. Keep hosting. TED will feature talks to help your community keep discussing climate solutions. Simply submit our short TED Circles registration form and you will join our global TED Circles host community, gain access to additional host resources, and have our small team on standby to help you succeed. Here are 2 TEDx Countdown events who hosted circles before, during, and after their event back in October 2020. In one of TEDx Tangamanga's 38 circles in Mexico, their group discussed checking their own consumption before trying to change others. XR Banbury has hosted 51 TED Circles, and their group enjoys discussing both the monthly theme found on tedcircles.com and Countdown's bi-monthly theme, which is found on the TED Circles page on Countdown's website. Whether you decide to host TED Circles at your event only or continue thereafter, I look forward to working together so our communities can participate in positive conversations that will help spark climate ideas into action. Thank you.
Hosting a countdown event is a great way to share real, local climate solutions. The events that each one of you produces are all part of a collective powerhouse for change. When you amplify your countdown event, you're also amplifying the goals of Countdown. And one of the best ways to do this is through social media. There are some straightforward ways to do this effectively, and we're here to help guide you by providing a simple strategy and some useful assets that you can share with your community. Let's dig right in. Today I'm going to go over 5 main points to help you build a robust social media presence. First, stick with what you know best. Second, use the Countdown design kit and social media assets. 3, try out apps or websites that help you create dynamic templates. 4, reach out to everyone to help amplify your event. And 5, be consistent with your posts. Now to start, we should mention that because we're so close to the start of Countdown, it's difficult to start a social media account from scratch and build community there. If you already have an active social media presence, either as a TEDx organizer or another outlet, or even your own personal accounts, you should use these channels to let your audience know about your Countdown event, rather than start a separate Countdown account. So first off, stick with what you know best. For the same reason why we encourage you to use your current social media channels, we also suggest sticking to platforms you're already familiar with, or a platform on which you already have a significant presence. If, for example, you're active on Facebook or Instagram, but haven't yet ventured into Twitter, your best bet would be to stick with Instagram and Facebook, rather than try to develop a more robust presence on Twitter. Many of you are probably already active on Facebook. If so, think about starting a separate countdown group and encourage your friends to join it. Groups are great because you'll have a like-minded audience ready to learn more about Countdown. Plus, it's a lot easier to moderate conversations there. And Instagram works well because you have the option of posting both on your main feed as well as creating stories that can be archived. Instagram is a perfect way to promote your event and highlight everything that takes place on the day of your event. Step 2. Use the Countdown Design Kit and media assets. A nice way to start promoting your event is through the design kit that we supply to you. This kit contains assets with the Countdown branding that can be shared via all social media channels, as well as for your emails. It provides a branding identity that is consistent across all Countdown events. It includes easy-to-follow directions on how to get started using all of the customizable digital and print assets, and provides you with the necessary fonts and color palettes. If you're not familiar with Adobe or other design applications, you'll need to find a designer to help you out. It's also a good idea to follow TED, TEDx, and Countdown social media channels. Watch how each account is sharing information about Countdown, and if you see anything that you think will work for your community, copy it. Next up, be creative with your posts. Apart from the supplied assets, try out other apps and websites that provide easy-to-use templates to create dynamic social media posts. Often, a simple but eye-catching post will help to engage your audience and get your message across. Canva and Adobe Spark, for example, are two platforms that allow you to create dynamic graphics for all social media, and they provide free images and illustrations. Many apps offer a basic free membership, and for a small fee, you'll have access to even more options. And then try out things like quizzes, use animations, conduct short interviews, and be sure to include as many interesting graphics as possible. Next, use everyone to help spread the news about Countdown. As I mentioned earlier, now is a time to take advantage of whatever presence you have on social media. There are great grassroots and institutional networks out there with huge built-in reach. Don't be shy about asking for their help in spreading the word about your event. Connect with local activist networks, encourage them to participate, and invite them to be part of the conversation to share actionable solutions. If you're going to have speakers, ask them to post about what they're going to talk about, what being a part of your event means to them, or how their connections can get involved. Do the same with anyone who has signed up to attend your event, as well as friends and colleagues. Finally, be sure to share everyone's posts involved with your event as well. Cross-promotion will build a strong, inclusive conversation. Finally, be sure to post regularly. Try for at least 3 posts a week. If you can post every day, even better. Take advantage of hashtags, including #JoinTheCountdown, so new audience members can find you. Here are 3 easy tips to help you focus on your posts and up engagement. First, lead the conversation and inspire your audience to join in. Ask them about something. 2, join conversations that are already in progress. What is everyone talking about? Especially what are they talking about related to climate? Hashtags are a great tool for finding relevant topics. And finally, be entertaining, but not over the top. Nobody likes a phony feeling account. Social media can feel overwhelming at times, but remember, you are part of the Countdown community. This is an opportunity for you to help spread information about climate. Don't be afraid to look around and see what other teams are doing. If you like something, feel free to do something similar. Your greatest resource are the other teams joining you in this exciting endeavor. Thank you.